Everyone. Happy Tuesday and last day of Black History Month. I am Taisha Ty Wilson. I'm super excited about today and just for this live conversation we'll have. So I appreciate everyone just taking the time out of your day to join us for our first ever collective conversations. And so before we even jump in, because I cannot wait to even have this conversation with Catherine and Joy, I did want to just share a little bit about this series because this will be one of many, hopefully monthly, that we'll have around with advocates and leaders in the collective giving movement. One of the things that I feel that we need more of is more joy and more positivity, like on our timeline, y'all. And there's just so many amazing leaders in philanthropy that's doing a lot of great work. And I want to shine a lot of light on these communities of philanthropists who have been traditionally overlooked. And so this series is a space for collective giving leaders to celebrate, for us to connect, share experiences, and really just talk about what we're doing and discuss common challenges in philanthropy and solutions, more importantly. And so we are ending Black History Month with looking forward and talking about Black philanthropy, because as we know, Black giving and Black philanthropy is a part of American history and Black history, more importantly. And it is our assets, our time, our talent, our treasure that have supported movements. Black philanthropy has been supporting movements, and we will continue to do so in our journey for equity for all. And so with that, through also just a little bit of framing about just the overall history of Black philanthropy, we know, y'all, that through the history of structural barriers and practices that have kind of blocked our asset building and wealth creation, that Black people now, we are choosing philanthropy. And so you'll hear today from two amazing women philanthropists who are doing great work and who are leaning into the spirit of utilizing our time, talent, treasure, and testimony to make our community safer, wholer, and better. And with that, despite the racial gap that we know that exists between Blacks and our other counterparts, Black philanthropy is very strong, and our history of giving is as well. And actually, according to a report by the W.K. Kellogg Foundations on the Cultures of Giving report, Black Americans donate 25% more of their income annually, more than our white households. And despite this is, again, in spite the racial wealth gap, nearly 2/3 of Black households donate approximately $11 billion to community-based organizations annually. I think that's super important to name before we even get into our conversation, because what the data tells us, and from a historical perspective, Black communities have always given. Maybe that has not always been identified, because we give differently in a multitude of various ways. And you'll hear from our guests today to talk about that. But our communities have always had robust networks and organizations that support and facilitate charitable giving. And that really just helps propel and bring more people into this work. And so today, we are disrupting that kind of narrative, any kind of narratives around our giving about Black history, and we're going to share our own journeys with two of my fellow 2022 Black women Give Back honorees. Joining me today is my friend, my sister, the fabulous Joy B. Webb. She's of the Community Investment Network and the founder of the Circle of Joy, and also Catherine McKillen. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Catherine. But Catherine is my heritage sister. We serve together on Heritage Giving Fund, which is the first Black giving circle here in the state of Texas. And so, ladies, I thank you. And even before we start our conversation, I'll give you your flowers today for the work that you all are doing to just spread love and generosity in our communities. And so I want to get into this conversation. Joy, if I can start with you, sister, if we can, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? So start with your intro, and then why don't you share with the community about like how your legacy, your history, your family history of giving, and how you got involved with philanthropy.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Ty. Um, my name is Joy Webb, and I am born and raised in the South. I am from Decatur, Georgia, metropolitan Atlanta, but I like to say Decatur. Um, and I started my history or my background with giving is just my family. I mean, I've always seen giving from my grandmothers to my aunts and uncles, to my mother and father. They were both educators, worked in both retired educators, so they were always giving back to their students more so than what was just teaching them or counseling them. They were doing this by coaching, by bringing people home, by us going out into community and being there for community. So I learned that because of the people that were around me, my families, and my church home. All of that was really embedded into me before I knew what the word philanthropy meant. I always saw the love of humankind, which is what the base of philanthropy is, through my family and my friends and my village in which I grew up in. So it was embedded in me early, and I just continued that journey because I knew nothing different. That was the way of life.
I love that. And yeah, thanks for explicitly naming what philanthropy is in your own words. I think that's super important because a lot of people, there's just so many definitions, Joy, around what philanthropy is. And so just simplifying it, love of humans, love of one another. So I'm glad that you named that. Catherine, do you mind sharing a little bit about you and your how you got involved in this work and who taught you how to give first?
Of course, and I will say my story sounds much like Joy. A lot of it started with my grandparents, and their mission and the work that they've done with their churches and the communities that they lived in. That was really the founding model that made my father a philanthropist and made me a philanthropist in return. Really watching them give back whatever they had to the community that they loved and took care of their kids and their grandkids really made me understand that it's more than just the dollar. It's the time, it's the talent, it's the effort, it's the intentionality behind it all that matters more. From there, I got to watch my grandmother sit on boards for different organizations and watch her thrive in that situation. And I remember sitting on her lap at board meetings and hearing all the people talk about budgets and stuff, and knowing that one day I wanted to be like her. And that's kind of led me down the train, watching my grandparents do it, then my parents do it. And when I graduated college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do and found myself in philanthropy as a career path. And though I've deviated from that, it still is a very solid foundation of why I do what I do today, even in my current path, and why it's so important to continue these conversations around what does a philanthropist look like? How do we change the narrative around that? How do we reach new philanthropists, both age, race, gender, economic status, and really open those doors for everyone, because everyone has the ability to make an impact for the communities and the causes that they truly love and should really have the opportunity to do so.
I love that. And y'all stories, it reminds me of my story. We all live in the same historical life as to like how we got introduced into philanthropy. How did your grandparents, Joy, Catherine, did they name themselves as philanthropists or did y'all hear them use that term? And if not, why do y'all think that's the case?
Um, I would say that, that might not have been the language. I mean, it's, everybody has different things. We made it happen, right? Find a way,
Right.
make a way. Whether that was providing sugar to the neighbor, babysitting some kids
Mm.
that needed a place because their parents were working late, or providing, maybe everybody carpool, whatever that was, it was community. And so that was what philanthropy was when I mean, that's what I would assume that my grandmother would look at it as, not necessarily philanthropy, because she loved her neighborhood, she loved her people. My parents did the same. That's why they gave so much to the counties and the children that they were teaching. They went above and beyond what they did for the people that they were influencing. So I think and I didn't look at myself as a philanthropist. I mean, I now start
Right.
and lead with that because I think that you need to see me as a philanthropist. You don't need to see me as a a charitable case or a giver. I know I'm a philanthropist. I'm very clear on
Mhm.
that, and I want other Black and brown people to understand that they too can be philanthropists. And the reason that they can be that is because it's the love of humankind. It's the love of, it's how you do it, right? Catherine talked about time, talent, and treasure, which leads to a testimony every time on both sides. And it's important that we understand that this narrative, we've all, it's in our DNA. We're not new to it. We're true to it. And that was probably the case with our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents. You know, we came and we gave to this country as black people, black and brown people, but black people in particular, as we're talking about Black History Month, we gave when the country didn't want to give to us. So it is inherited. But I think that the word, it's a large word to say, first of all.
Right.
So
Right. No, facts.
and the narrative would be that it's a white man with a check.
Mm-hmm.
What we are representing here today is that it's not. And we're here to say it. We made lists together, and it has been documented that we are here, we're not going anywhere, and that we are philanthropists. So you can read about it, you can see about it. We've done some news together. You already stated the facts from Kellogg's earlier.
Right.
So I think that is shifting the narrative, right? So yes, I'm not saying that philanthropy is not going. We're not going to change the world and say, oh, it's not a white man with a check, but it is also, it can be both and. So.
And I think that's really important. So how my grandmother always phrases to us, it's us passing on our blessings. We are blessed to be in a situation to be able to give back to those who need, to those that we love, to the communities that we live in. And it's really always been that. And she never saw it anything other than that. And I think that takes off the burden that the word philanthropist comes with sometimes. You feel as though you should be giving a certain amount, doing a certain amount of volunteering. It has to look a particular way. It has to be very formal, but it doesn't. None of that really matters at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, whether it's formal, informal, $1 versus $10 million, 1 hour of volunteer time versus 12 hours of volunteer time, it makes a difference. And it's you taking the opportunity to really pass that blessing along that you have. And I think that's been very foundational in how I even see myself as a philanthropist. I don't worry about the big things. I worry about, how am I making sure I'm not pulling the ladder up behind me? I didn't get to where I am because of someone had to help me get there. So I want to make sure I'm passing it along to the next person, whether I know that person or not. And that's kind of the foundation for everything that I do. And I see a lot of that in the African American and Latinx communities, where it's much more about that bringing others with you versus it has to be a certain way, and taking that pressure off that title of philanthropist.
I'm so glad that we're even talking about this narrative change. Y'all are saying some things, and I asked y'all that for a reason, because our philanthropy has always just been a lifestyle. We are a communal people. And I just think that is very important for all of us, for the folks that's watching, and even just the narratives that we tell ourselves. All of it matters. Your contributions in every shape or form really matters. And that's what philanthropy is. But I just think that just unpacking that term so people can place it and say, oh, okay, well, I actually have been serving on this board for this amount of time, or I have been carpooling my neighbors and their kids for this amount of time, but we're not viewing ourselves at that. But I think more importantly, more than ever now, it's time for us to own that and lean into it even more so, because that's where we're going to see the change happen. So just thank y'all for centering that narrative change around who we are, because we are philanthropists. Well, let's get into this work y'all are doing. I mean, y'all were spotlighted and honored and celebrated. We were in Indianapolis last year, which was an amazing opportunity, y'all. And just shout out to Black Philanthropy Month and the Wise Fund and the Women's Philanthropy Institute for even just seeing us, right? And so I want to even see y'all even more. Catherine, do you mind sharing tell us about what you're building, like what you're working on, and just what are you doing in collective giving to just bring people together for change?
Of course. And I kind of see my giving in two phases. So, one, what am I doing with the other women of color to bring about the change we want to see? And how am I disrupting the white philanthropic systems that we already see today? So, on the first part, I am a very proud member and founding member at that of Heritage Giving Fund, which is the first Black women's giving fund into the Dallas area. And it is solely focused on helping not just only raise funds, but also raise capacity, build great leaders of Black women who are running organizations in the area. And we're not talking those large organizations, we're just talking about those grassroots organizations that are just starting, but are making major impact. They might have not unlocked their first grants from major foundations or anything like that, but we're opening those doors for them so that they can move to that next level. And we've seen that over the years that we've been granting. We've watched our grantees go from grassroots organizations to winning some major foundation grants in the area. And it's been wonderful to see them get the notoriety that they truly deserve in the process. On the other part, I am working with the Junior League of Dallas, which historically in Dallas, when you say Junior League, you don't think of always people that look like me in that organization, but it is. I'm very lucky to be in this wonderful organization that is filled of powerful women of all skin shades, really here working to make a difference and really disrupting how we look at philanthropy. And I serve on their scholarship committee for one of their scholarships that works with DISD, where we're granting $40,000 a year to high school girls for scholarships for their education, and getting to change that narrative and how we're reaching those girls and what additional benefits we could have for them in the process. And it's so nice to be able to do both at the same time because they really lean on one another in some ways. The things that I learn with Heritage, I can bring back to the Junior League and be like, hey, have we thought about doing this? Have we thought about this approach? I know we're giving them funds, but could we do mentorship on top of that? How do we grow this program outside of just giving the dollar value to these girls? Because in such a powerful network like the Junior League, that it's kind of endless how we can make these impacts in so many different ways. So it's fun to get to be both a disruptor in both sides of things while also bringing community about in the same way. And I'm really honored to be doing both.
Definitely. I see you the importance of even just being a voice with the Junior League of Dallas. I mean, I mean, you're both in Dallas, and traditionally the Junior League has, has been a very majority white space, and so again, in the ways in how we disrupt philanthropy, just showing up with you being there and bringing in your voice and perspective in can change. Now you're talking about systems and processes change from organizations that are predominantly white. And so I love that for you, Catherine, and I appreciate you. Joy, you're talking about, we're talking about giving circles. Catherine's talking about heritage. You're a founder of a giving circle. Why don't you share a little bit more about your circle and other endeavors you have going on? Because you have a lot of things going on as well.
I do have a few things. I was blessed to find this work by doing the work, right? So in 2008, maybe 2007, happened to be volunteering for Atlanta Public Schools and met a young man who was talking about giving circles. Had never heard of a giving circle, didn't know what it was. Thought, that sounds pretty cool. He told me he was a part of a network called Community Investment Network that was actually a network of African American people at that time who had created giving circles, and what that was putting together your time, your talent, and your treasure, and helping your community or a nonprofit that you wanted to be the change that you wanted to see. And so I was a little cocky. It might be the Leo in me, and I was like, I got friends, I could do that. And I I set to learn more about community investment network. They welcomed me with open arms. There were a couple of giving circles in the South already that had already been established, and they mentored me and gave me some guidance on how I wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Right? They provided community to me because I was not in the world of traditional philanthropy. So I was very green, and I thought, well, I have this group of people. We are collective. We want to give back. everybody should want to take our money. And that's not really how it works, because people think that there's a trick. What's the catch? Because that's not how traditional philanthropy works. So I started the Giving Circle, the Circle of Joy, with 15 people 15 years ago. And we have been really, really blessed. We lead with our treasure and we follow with our time and talent, because we do not want to be a check dropper offer.
Mm,
We want to
a
build
check dropper offer. Now that I have to keep. I love that.
um,
Sorry,
we
Joy.
wanted to show and showcase the work, and we focus on African American organizations and nonprofits in the Metro Atlanta area that focus on youth, because we know that children are our future. So focus on Black youth. And so we've been able to partner with several organizations in the metropolitan Atlanta area over the last 15 years. Last year, in October, we gave our largest grant of $30,000 um, to two organizations that were amazing. They were both Black women led, and they actually were helping girls with STEM, and also just empowering Black girls, young Black girls. So that was amazing. And so I've had the opportunity to work with Community Investment Network, which kind of gave me this foundation of learning more about philanthropic pieces. But with that, I'm always a knowledge person, right? So I want to know more. I want to do more. I want to do all these things. And I started talking about collective giving, so much so that I tag myself the collective giving evangelist, because I could talk about collective giving all day long. But I also had the opportunity to be in different spaces and places. And with those different spaces and places, I had the opportunity to be a part of a bigger organization called Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, which was intentional with Black women that ran organizations and foundations in the South. They said, you know what, that number that you talked about, that gap, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the philanthropy that's going to Black people. Then you look at the philanthropy that's going to Black women, it's less. And then you get to the South, and it's pennies on
Oh
the
wow.
dollar, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough, and they wanted to be intentional on changing that narrative. And so they have funded. They started the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, and they have leaders throughout the South that are engaged and involved, and they fund Black women-led organizations helping Black girls throughout the South, and that is 13 states, from Virginia all the way to Florida, and we just picked up Texas, so we coming for y'all.
Whoop.
And with that, we've been able to give, you know, $3 million plus to Black women led organizations. Be intentional, be strategic, listen to the Black women voices, because we know that those funds, the funds that I did with the Giving Circle, the funds that happen in Community Investment Network, the funds that happen from Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, sometimes those are oftentimes the first grants that are given to Black women-led organizations or Black organizations. And so that can leverage more funds for them, more accessibility. And also, oftentimes these grants all of the grants that I'm talking about are unrestricted. And unrestricted funds are different from restricted funds. And we could go on, and I'm not going to go on and on. But just know that in order to run a program, you might have government money, or you might have money that is restricted and tagged for a certain program. But that doesn't mean that, you know, if I'm running an after school program and I have programmatic money, the kids still have to eat. The lights still have to
Right.
be on.
Mm-hmm.
Those unrestricted funds are priceless for those leaders that are working day and night, because they're doing the hard work and the heart work. And that is necessary for the organization to grow and thrive. But we've been able to pour into them from all different aspects. So my values, and I've been able to learn to leverage my passion and my values and my purpose. So I feel really full every day that I do the work, because I am touching my community in a way that is intentional, strategic, and sustainable, because it is a collective. It is the power of the collective. We are better. We are stronger together.
Good child. Mic drop moments. Both of you. So I know, Joy, you said, well, we're not going to get in there, but I have to. We have to talk about giving circles, because y'all, not only are we moving money, you just shared all the money that's being moved, Joy. That is a blessing and amazing in itself, because to your point about, yes, about how we Black philanthropists give, But from the bigger community, only 8% of that funding, of all philanthropic funding, goes to community of colors. And you said it, even less than that goes to women and girls. I think like 2% or 3% or something like that. So when we talk about shifting resource, moving money, changing the narrative that we talked about earlier, giving circles, I feel like are a good entry point for folks to get up in here and get in community and create change and learn, right? Like, and so I do want to sit with that with giving circles, because that's our synergy, and that's where we really are doing some amazing work. So Catherine, like, why do you think it's giving circles are so important and effective in terms of shifting of resources, not just the treasure piece, but all of the beyond the dollar engagement that Joy talked about, and like supporting the grantee? Like, why is it important? Why are they important in that way?
I think they're so important that way because they typically fund organizations that you will not find large foundations funding. They're your organizations that might not have the budget to have a grant writer per se to write that fancy grant to qualify for that first major grant, or might not have the ability to get the audit that they need in that situation. The collective giving circle movement is really opening doors for organizations that might not have any other way besides individual donations to make a huge impact. And the thing is, with these collective giving funds, the giving circles are able to combine what would be 100 people's individual donations and make it one giant grant. So you're actually creating this ease of ability for these organizations as well to finally say, we've received a large grant because these people came together to deliver it. And I think it's the intentionality behind these organizations to really not just look at who they would like to serve ideally, but who needs it, who needs the support, who could really benefit from not only the money, but the guidance that these organizations give and the doors they're able to open. Because one of my favorite things about Heritage is that most of us sit in some philanthropic organization
True.
as well. So now you have made friends with someone who might have a large grant making team on their staff, and they can say, hey, let me help review that grant for you that you're getting ready to submit for the first time. And you now have this mentor in this process to help you go through it and help you grow. You now have board members that you might have not had before because they know something now about your organization and can see the potential that you have to help build you and grow you into your full potential. It is just truly limitless what these giving circles can do, because it is truly a group of individuals with their individual talents, their individual passions, their individual skill sets coming together to make an organization better. And that is something I think a lot of people miss. It's not just about the dollars that they give,
Right.
but the intention and the passion and the purpose that they have behind them.
So true. And I know when I joined Heritage in 2018, in that first year as a new member, like I was a fundraiser, like so many people in philanthropy. I feel like I got called in. I didn't go up. I didn't have a degree in philanthropy, but I was ushered in. But I was a fundraiser at first. And so joining Heritage allowed me to see the other side, because that first year I went on a site visit. I went on a site visit for the grantees. Like once we identified the organizations that we were considering funding, and those site visits like allowed me, I feel like it forever changed my trajectory in terms of seeing them and what they were experiencing. The organizations you're talking about, Catherine, those smaller organizations that I'm like, whoa, like the ED was the fundraiser, she the program manager running, pushing diapers out the out of her car, and like just like I literally saw it with and I wanted to do more. I was able to see it for myself, and I wanted to do more. So giving circles really are a shameless plug, but we all love giving circles. We're all members of one, but they really they change your trajectory with how you give, because it immerses you on both the fund, immerses you on the sourcing side, as well as just on the the allyship side of being true partners with these organizations and seeing them and seeing other ways and how we can support them.
I would also say, as a Black giving circle, as we're all part of it, it also changes the narrative and disrupts the tagline that Black people are on the demand.
Mm,
Mhm.
Joy.
We are actually supplying, right? So when we gave a grant, I share with others. I've given grants to, and I don't even call them grants because they're my partners. They're doing work. We're doing work. We don't need this caste system, this money type of this
Mm-hmm.
situation. They're partners. Our partner. We were able to give up a grant. We were giving resources to an organization that was a boys' home in a metropolitan Atlanta, and a young boy came up to me and said, "You look like my auntie, and that looks like my grandmother, and he looks like my uncle." And nobody's ever given to us that looks like that, like
Wow.
family.
Mhm.
And so, I always go back to, too much is given, much is required. But it also showed them that they too could do it, right? They need to have exposure. When we go out, from even with the bigger organization of granting millions of dollars with Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, when we go to small rural areas and they see Black women show up for them and
Mm,
show out for them and provide services that they didn't ask for, but we knew that was necessary for their environment, or just to have the ability to have something and nobody's asking you to pay something for it, that exposure can change the trajectory of a life. It can change what a Black girl's dream is. It can change what the narrative is. It can change what will happen in the future for those communities, right? So whether that's the giving circle, when you look at the power of the collective,
mm,
however you collect, it is amazing. And and people are watching. What I will say is, over the 15 years that we've given, I see people following in our footsteps. And so when the Circle of Joy gives, I see these other organizations popping up giving to the same
Mhm.
organizations because we've already done the research.
yes,
We've
that's
already built the
right.
relationships. They know it's good. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, they did it. We could do it too. Or people will come and say, hey, can I match this? Or, corporate sponsors might call and say, what are you doing? How can we be a part of that? All of that stuff is part of us just taking those first steps and just saying, you know what? We're going to go out here and do it. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. And the way we be about it, we don't have to have the imposter syndrome of, oh my God, I don't have a lot of money. You don't know what your money and your funds and your resources will do for organizations. If you
Mhm.
have $1,000 that is collectively given by anybody, that might change the trajectory of somebody who might be in a really tight bind, an ED who needs something to happen so that they can continue to feed kids, or they can provide, clothing for homeless, or whatever it is. So don't you think about what you don't have enough of. You need to, we have to live in the abundance and provide
Yes.
the abundance. Don't look at that scarcity mindset, because that's what's kept us down for a very long time, and people like to share that with us. So we have to change that. We have to shift that lens. Okay, I'm done preaching because I told y'all
Oh,
I could
child,
give it
send a
all
collection
day.
plate around. This is so good, y'all. Okay, so I do have to ask because we know that with giving circles, one, women are leading the work of a majority, like 70% of women giving circles are led by women. But I want to talk. I want to lift up men in this movement because I know it's some brothers watching and men that are watching, and they're like, okay, philanthropy. That's kind of like teaching. Like that's the women. Although there's a lot of Black male educators, but what I'm saying is the general view is like some things are like for the women to do, and philanthropy, because it's so predominated by women. Let's speak to the men for a moment, as it relates to men in collective giving and with giving circles. What role do y'all think that they play or can play, Joy, to your point about, you can't be what you can't see type deal? It's like, I'm a mother of five, y'all. I have three sons. I want my sons to be able to see men that are doing good out here serving. And so this is our pulling in for them. What do you have to say to these men that are looking to get involved in philanthropy or just don't even know how to get involved in this work?
I have been blessed, like I said, with the Community Investment Network to be able to work with men, all Black men and Latinx men giving circle. So DAP, which is in Denver, is an all men's giving circle, all African American men's giving circle, and Lift, which is also in Denver, is all male. And so they show up differently, right? A lot of times women are nurturers, men are providers, right? So they show up differently and they do the work differently and people see them differently. One of the really cool things about Community Investment Network is that many years ago when I first got introduced to it, I saw all these Black men that were part of this network. And I thought, it's a lot of Black men. I was thinking, okay, as a single Black woman, oh, okay, this is interesting. But
Interesting, Joy. Is that
it
what
was
you were
interesting.
thinking?
I was thinking it was interesting because I hadn't been in the space. Once again, I didn't work in philanthropy. But what was really, really interesting after I dug back and thought, why is this so interesting? Like, why are you so intrigued? And it was because they were not there because of their wives. They were there because they wanted to
Mm.
be there. They were intentional. They were strategic. They were unapologetically giving back to their communities. And it wasn't that combination. It wasn't that 1 2. Oh, my wife does this. A lot of the Black men that are part of Community Investment Network, just this is part of their give back. This is what they did, regardless of what their spouses were doing. We look at sororities and fraternities, and I'll say fraternities because we're talking about men right now. They are service organizations. It's a lot of that's part of our DNA once again. So there are a lot of opportunities, and it's just a different way of looking at it. We look at all these different collective models. In some African cultures, it's a susu. It's all these different things. But in Asian cultures, gi. All of these things of how we give back. And so men are providers. They give back too, and that's what I see them in this work, being able to take their space and place and be providers and be I won't even say role models, but just
Right.
show up. If they show up, then other young men and young girls can see them as just that, showing up for their community.
Agreed. I would have to add too, I'm very lucky to have seen this firsthand with my dad. And he told me when I was kind of starting my career, when we were talking about philanthropy, and I'm like, why do you do this? Like, I understand you're passionate about it. I understand why you want to give back to the community, but like, why do you take his very specific approach? Which his response was actually quite eye-opening to me. He's like, I have a duty as a Black male in corporate America, as a VP of a bank who has access to all these white people, to open their eyes to organizations that I am passionate about so they open their pocketbooks and we can make a difference. And
Yes.
he's like, I am on that mission. That is my job. I might not be able to go volunteer every day and go mentor, but I can make sure pocketbooks are open for these organizations to make a difference.
Okay.
And it made me like stop. I actually like was like, whoa. Like, I didn't even think about that aspect of the networks and the proximity to whiteness that a Black male has, being just a male, and the doors they can open because of that, if they're in certain spaces, and how some people see it as part of their duty in that sense to open those doors for organizations they care about to see the changes they want to see. And that really changed how I looked at philanthropy, because it also added in this element of network. A lot of times when we talk about philanthropy, it's time, talent, treasure. We don't talk about network. But that is one of the biggest things you can give, is open up your network to the organizations that you're passionate about. And see if someone could be a board member, if someone could donate, if someone has resources they could give. You never know until you ask, and your network is one of the most valuable things for a nonprofit, particularly a small nonprofit that is just looking for help or looking for someone that could provide guidance or assistance or simply funds. Is talk to people that you interact with every day about what you're passionate about, because usually people give to where they see other people are passionate.
And their values.
Yes. And Catherine, you share, as I'm listening to you talk about your dad, it's like sometimes we think, even with philanthropy, you just got to be out here doing a whole bunch of different things. What I hear your dad said is, I got proximate with my philanthropy. where he was right then, he figured out how he could provide, to your point, Joy, what he could provide. And so I just love that, because I, even with my husband, like he's not a socialite like me, but I know that he is passionate about, just giving and the legacy, and contributing to community and all those things. And that might look different, but it matters. And so I lift that up for all the guys that are watching, all the men that are watching, and listening in. Your contributions so matter, and you have a role to play in this movement. And so I want to go back for a second to the Black Women Give Back list, because we shared that experience, y'all. That was so awesome. And I don't know about you all, but I felt so seen. And it took me like what I feel like was like months to even process the experience. Like when I was going back through my phone, looking at photos, and I had such great appreciation for the platform of Black Philanthropy Month, and Dr. Jacqueline Copeland, who is the founder of Black Philanthropy Month, just our people that are literally creating all of these platforms and resources for us to be seen and to be heard and to be recognized. And although it's not the self-gratifying piece, but we know that the sharing out, it touches people. When you think about influencers and all that, their reach, I mean, they're selling products, we can sell good, right? And so we need these platforms. So I want to ask y'all, like, what did that award, flowers to you both, because y'all were recognized for the work that you're doing. And I love that. But what did that experience, what did that experience with being a part of the Black Women Give Back list, what did that mean to you? And why are platforms like Black Philanthropy Month and the Wise Fund and Black philanthropic organizations like that are important to this work, in your opinion?
I will say, honestly, I'm still in shock that I was a finalist on this list. Every day, I'm waiting for them to ask for my award back, honestly.
Don't.
Just being in the presence of such amazing women who are truly shaking up what the philanthropic space looks like, it was definitely a moment of absolute imposter syndrome for me. I just felt out of place because I did not feel as though what I was doing was making as big of an impact as you all are making. But at the same time, it made me realize that it looks different for everyone. The path I'm on is a different path than Joy's on, is a different path than Ty's on, but we are all making a major difference by taking our path and sticking to it with pride and really owning it as our own. And being recognized by that list reminded me that the little things do count, and you never know who is watching what you do and what role model you'll play for someone else in this path, in this work. And I hope that people who might not think they're doing enough or their path might look a little different see themselves as making the big impacts that they are on a regular basis. And I'm so grateful for the Black Women Give Back committee and everything for recognizing the work that we all do, because we do come from all different pathways and backgrounds and are making impacts in different ways. And it really shows the diversity of philanthropy, even in the Black female community, and just about every way that we can really make a difference, that there is a Black woman leading something in it. Which honestly, I'm a believer that if it's not a Black woman leading it, I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm really excited for
Tell the truth,
continuation.
shame the devil, as my grandma would say. Love that. Joy, what about you?
Um, I'm in awe, like you all said. And because I have been doing this, and it's just a way of life, I didn't think of it as anything special. So I was honored to be nominated, right? And then to receive the call was amazing. Um, and to be on par with all of you amazing women, and the others that were honored with us, it just shows that, just stick to your position, right? Joy, do what you do, and do that in the best way that you can, and God will make room for all the other things. And so for me, when you talked about imposter syndrome, I had that because I was, giving circles are, new to some, not new to all, but new to some. And so my work and how I got into this work was through Giving Circle. So a lot of times I had to explain it and explain it and explain it. And what is a Giving Circle and how do you do this and what is the
Mhm.
hook and they're gonna take something back and all the things that I do to make things much more equitable. Where there is not a 45-page uh, piece that you have to write to get a grant from the Circle of Joy. There is not I need a report every 3 weeks on the $3 that I gave you. That's not what traditional philanthropy would look like as what a philanthropist looks like. So the Giving Circle work and us being able to chart our own course to do this work, but still being impactful. Having that impact, going through times of, in the 15 years of saying, oh, we don't have enough to give, because I'm looking at like Jewish networks that have millions and trillions of dollars to give, but listening to uh, founders and like Daryl Lester, who was founder of the Community
Mhm.
Investment Network, Valeda, who has a Giving Circle in North Carolina, understanding that it is about the impact, and a Giving Circle is also a forgiving circle. Because people have lives. This is a part of our philanthropic profile. It's not just this piece. This isn't your job. Most of the work that I work with people who got a lot of other things to do. So I'm doing this as my job, and this is like I'm doing this as a side thing. Like I got you, but don't keep bothering me. So to keep doing that and to never think of myself as a fundraiser, but more so of a friend raiser. Um, I just was amazed, like this actually works, God. Yeah, people actually see me. So I was
We
very,
see you.
very, I was very, very pleased, very excited to just be in the space with other phenomenal women, and with Dr. Jackie. She's amazing. The
Amazing.
work that has been done, that has been done for a very long time. She fought long and hard for us to get to this point, to
That
have
part.
the month, to have it recognized. So to be able to give her flowers, for seeing us in the work, as the next generation or the people that will continue to further her mission, because this work is it's not over, right? So I was so ecstatic, so pleased, and so excited to see the next group, right? Because we are part
Same.
of something
Same.
that's really exciting to me.
Y'all, this conversation, how long we have? No, I'm just kidding. This conversation is so good. I'm like, I have so much we've talked about so many great things and wonderful things about our family and grandparents and history, our history of giving. We've talked about men and movement, giving circles, our current work of what we're doing, diversity, inclusion, efforts that we're doing, how we're moving money, y'all, just so much to unpack. And now I'm thinking about like the future, like to your point, Joy, you just said it. This is what we just getting started, like for us anyway. And there's still more work to be done. And we need more people to get involved and to show up. And I'm just thinking right now about the future of Black philanthropy. What does that look like? I can go on a whole tangent about what I personally feel like what that looks like. But in one word, what would you describe the future of Black philanthropy and why? One word.
I would say intentional. Yeah.
And why? Why
Oh, wow.
intention?
Y'all, it's Tuesday afternoon.
It's okay.
Why? Because I think we have been philanthropists for a very long time and haven't known it. We are moving into the space of being very intentional philanthropists and really learning to use our voice, our dollar, our talent to make massive waves in ways that people never thought we could. So we are about to see a growing intentionality, because we are already beginning to become intentional about everything. There's about to be a growing intentionality in how we continue to grow in this space and how we use our time and how we infiltrate spaces that might have not looked like us before to get funds to organizations that serve our communities we want, how we get organized and gather to do the same. It's really going to be about intentionality as we go forward and making sure we're making those waves in a way that only we can.
Okay. So, I want to hyphenate a word because it's like so many words, but I'm gonna go with the first word that came to me. I was listening to what Catherine said. I was like, maybe I should switch. Maybe I should switch my word. but it goes back to love. I mean, we lead with love. That's what the base of the word is. Um,
Yes.
we love hard. Black folks love hard, y'all.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah,
are
we do.
passionate about the things that we are passionate about. So if we combine our words and we love intentionally and we put it together, add a little bit strategic in there so we can be really, really on top of the world, we will change the world because we are the change that the world is waiting to see, and we can do it. We have the power, and we know that we are better together. We are strong together as women, as a nation, as a collective. That's what the base of giving circles is, the power of the collective, right? And so when you align those values and you have
Mhm.
love and you're strategic and you're intentional, ain't no stopping you.
Mhm.
And that's what I see Black philanthropy as.
I love that. That feels like home in real life. Love and intentionally loving one another. And boy, do we need more of it. Well, I'm happy. I'm so honored to love on you two today. And thank y'all for loving on everyone else that has joined for this live conversation. I want to make sure folks can know where to reach you, where to find you. Catherine, where can folks find you and stay connected with you after this?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's my full name, Catherine McClellan Kelly. Sorry for all the consonants in there. But I'm the only one on LinkedIn. So once you find me, I'm happy to connect.
I am on LinkedIn as well. Joy Webb. It might be Joy B Webb, but my picture is there, so you should be able to find me. And maybe I might be the only philanthropist. How about that? That might be a good way. I am also the Giving Circle can be found at Circle of Joy ATL on Instagram and Facebook. And then just because why not Instagram me personally is live.well.joy. Oh,
All
and the
right,
collective
folks.
giving evangelist. I mean, like if you go to my
Yes,
name,
you are. I was about to
yeah,
say you better
that
brand
yeah, that whole
that.
joybweb.com, it goes to the collective giving evangelist, the work that I've had the honor to be able to serve in love, serve in power, serve in passion, and connecting people and places and things to actually be able to give back, especially to communities of color. So all of those things, you can find me. I'm out there. Google me.
Yes, you are. Both of y'all are. And I just, thank you all for all the folks that's watching. I hope and pray that you all feel even more inspired than you did coming into the space today. I hope to do more of these conversation again. We're going to have these monthly, and just as a way for us to stay inspired and stay informed about the good things that are happening in our backyard. And so joining me today, as y'all know, Joy, Catherine, thank y'all so much for the conversation, for your presence, for your light, for your energy. I see y'all. And just thank you for all that you're doing to encourage Black philanthropy, and even just sharing today just on that history piece. I feel more anchored in and more connected with you all. And I hope folks will feel the same way. So until next month, I will see y'all for our second series of this collective conversations. And we'll see y'all then. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.